For our first webinar, I'm going to talk about two things that Schoology has to offer to use in our classroom. So I'm logged into BCPS1 and I'm going to click on Schoology. You have three options for creating resources. You can create it in a course, in a group, or in your resources. I usually create mine in resources. So I clicked on resources. I'm going to go to my box that I created called Grade 7 Curriculum. And then I'm going to go to Unit 4 because that's the unit that we're in, and I'll create a test or a quiz for Module 10. Okay, so once I'm in that folder, I will click Add Resources and click Add Test or Quiz. Once I click that, I can name my quiz, put it out of how many points that I want, and then there's this Options button where you could create resource notes, say it's for grade 7, it's an assessment, and then you can also choose a subject if you choose. Okay, so then you hit submit and it adds it to your resources. So this is where you create questions. For your question options, you have either true, false, multiple choice, ordering, short answer, essay questions, fill in the blank, matching, from question banks, and then you also have the options to create a page break or add text. So I'm going to click add text, and I'm going to insert a picture that I have downloaded. And then I'll add this box plot image and hit create text. Okay, so that's the text that will show up in my quiz. And then if I add questions, I can add true, false, or any of these options. So if I add true, false, I can say the median of the box plot is 50. And then obviously the correct answer is false. And you can also require a correction if false, where they have to write the correct median is, and they would enter what the correct median is. And then you would hit create question. Then you could add another question that is fill in the blank, and you could say the interquartile range of this box plot is blank. And the blank is shown by an underscore, and then your blank shows up here and you can put in the correct answer. So the interquartile range was 40 here. And you can also click allow partial credit, give them a word bank, make it case sensitive, or make the question timed. And then this tells you how many points you can make your question. And hit create question. Okay, so if I were to go to add question again and hit page break and hit create, that means that my page break shows up right at the bottom where this empty line is. And that means that questions 1 and 2 and this box plot image will show up on the same page when a student goes to view it. If you don't hit page break, you can also go to settings, create instructions, say complete this quiz during class, and then you can also set a time limit, and if you set a time limit it's in minutes, so you could give them 30 minutes. You can allow them to have as many attempts as they want. This one says use page breaks. If you have a page break, you can change the keyboard to Spanish. If you use a page break, you cannot randomize the order. You can allow them to review their questions after they are finished their test. You can allow them to resume their test or not if they have to come back to it. And then you can also allow them to view their submission with and without correct answers. And then you have your printing options down here. So then I hit Save Changes. Okay. If you go to Preview, you can hit Begin and see how both of these questions are on the same page with the box plot. And then after your page break, if you wanted to add another box plot or dot plot and then more questions that go with that, you can do that as well. And then at the top, you can hit Show Instructions. And then go to the next page if you were to add more questions. So if you don't have any page breaks, you can go back to Settings. And then you can hit 1 question per page, and that's just a normal quiz where you have 1 question per page. So you can go back to your quiz and you can preview it by clicking it, and then if you want to edit it, you can hit Edit Questions. You can delete your page break, and then if you preview it here, hit Begin, you have each thing that you created on 1 page. So if you go back to your quiz, in the settings box, you can click Add to Course or Copy to or Move to. If you move it, it will go out of this folder and move it to another folder in your resources. If you hit Copy to, you can copy it to our DCMS Math Department page and pick a folder. If you hit Add to Course, you can click all or one of your courses, put the point values in, and you can add it to your own folder if you choose. So I could put it in Module 10 graded assignments if I wanted to. And then I'd hit Add. Oh, I have to select a category. So Add to Course. And then you'd hit Category, Ungraded, Major, Minor, Practice, so quizzes are minor, and then do that for each one. And you can also add a due date and a time if you want, and then hit Add. Okay, once your quiz is added, you can go to your course, and it shows up at the bottom here, and then you can hit Edit, and this is where you can individually assign to students, and then it just allows you to type in their name, and then it will only show up for those students. You can, if this is green, it is published to students. If it's an empty circle, it's unpublished, meaning they can't see it. And then you can allow them to make comments also. And then you can hit Save Changes. And then that's your quiz. So you can use quizzes for warm-ups, exit tickets, actual assessments, or whatever you feel like you could use it for in your classroom. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to create a discussion. So I'm back in BCPS 1. I'm going to click on Schoology. And again, you can create it in courses, groups, or resources. I'm going to go to Resources and hit Grade 7 Curriculum. And we're in Unit 4. And we're going to do one in Module 11. Okay, so I'm going to click Add Resources and hit Add Discussion. And then create a title. So I'll do sample populations and samples. And the description is your question. So I could say I wanted to see how many students at Deep Creek Middle School walk to school. I asked everyone in the 6th grade, is this a random sample or a biased sample? Explain your answer. Okay, you can also add a file, a link, a resource from your resources folder, or an audio or video recording. Up here, you can also insert content. You can add a picture, you can add a video, you can have all of these YouTube, Vimeo, Khan Academies. There's symbols, there are even equations that you can create to be in a math format. And then you can also create a rubric, and you can have rubrics in your resources already ready to use, or you can create a new rubric, and then it shows you your criteria and your grading scale, and you can add learning objectives and everything there. Okay, under additional info, just like tests and quizzes, you can add a grade level, a resource type, and then a subject if you choose to. And then hit submit, and your discussion pops up here. So then you can click add to course. You can add it to all of your courses. You can add it to a folder just like a test and quiz if you choose to. And then advanced options, you can enable grading and decide to grade it. So you can pick a max amount of points, put it into a category, and then have it graded online. Okay, so now I'm going to click add, and then I'm going to go to my courses, and it shows up wherever you saved it. So for example, mine is here. In your courses is when you can edit the settings. So again, I have my title, my question. I can add a due date for each class if I choose to, and a time. You can enable grading again, and then you can also individually assign to students just like tests or quizzes. So I can individually assign to some students and not others. You can align learning objectives, which is your Common Core standards. If you lock it, that means they can see it, but they can't submit their answers yet. And you can also hit lock on to add a due date pretty much, or hit lock now or keep it unlocked. Again, if the green button is lit up, it's published to students. If it's an empty circle, it's unpublished, meaning they can't see it. And then this button says that members can see other responses before participating. So if they open the discussion, they can see everyone else's answers before they decide to answer. If you click it and it's lit up, that means that they have to answer the discussion in order to see everyone else's. So I'm just going to click that to show you an example, and I'm going to hit save changes. So what I do, or I've done in the past, is I have responded to my own discussion question, and I would write, it is a biased sample because not everyone that attends Deep Creek Middle School is in the 6th grade. And then I can hit post. Okay, so I just told them the correct answer, but then again, if you go to course options and view as, and I can view as Mario, if I click it, they won't be able to see the correct answer until they post themselves. And that way they can check their answers. So for example, one way that I've used discussions in my class is that I created a folder. And then to do that, you hit add materials and add folder. And then when you're in the folder, you can add discussion questions. So for example, for writing two-step equations, I added 4 different two-step equation questions. And then for each one, I added the answer, but students couldn't see it until they replied with their answer. And then their directions were, if you got them wrong, to reply to their own comment.